and welcome to the topic Social Learning Theory and Social Constructivism. Module 1 Social Learning Theory, Bandura and Walters. Social learning theories are those which emphasize learning through observation of others. The cognitive psychologists who appreciate the role of observation in learning are termed as social psychologists, and the theory of learning they propagate is known as social learning theory. These theories emphasize the significant role played by social experiences to which children are exposed. Albert Bandura and Richard Walters came out with an innovative approach. They put forth that what an individual presents to the world at large as his personality is acquired through a continuous process of structuring and restructuring of experience gathered by means of social learning and later imitated in corresponding situations. According to Bandura and Walters, during early period of child's life, besides maturation, imitation and social learning influence their style of behavior and performance in various walks of life. Children pick up etiquette and attitudes by watching their parents and elders, often mannerisms from popular actors and models whom they see on television or in films. The imitation of models' behavior are further reinforced in the viewer's mind by the reward or recognition that the model receives. Module 2 Bandura's theory of social learning can be explained under the following three headings. First one, Reciprocal Determinism. Second one, Self-System. And the third one, Principles of Observational Learning. Reciprocal Determinism. The social learning theory explains behavior in terms of triadic, dynamic and reciprocal interaction of the event, personal factors and behavior. Some sources of influences are stranger than other and that they do not all occur simultaneously. In fact, the interaction between the three factors will differ based on the individual. In this diagram, we can see there are 3 points E, P and B. E stands for environment, B for behavior and P for person. The person behavior or PB interaction involves the bidirectional influence of one's thoughts, emotions and biological properties and one's actions. A bidirectional interaction also occurs between environment and personal characteristics, that is EP. In this process, human expectations, beliefs and cognitive competency are developed and modified by the social influence and physical structure within the environment. The social influence can convey information and activate emotional reactions through such factors as modeling, instruction and social persuasion. The final interaction occurs between behavior and environment, that is BE. Bandura says that people are both products and producers of their environment. A person's behavior will determine the aspects of their environment to which they are exposed and behavior in turn modified by that environment. Second, self-system. In social learning theory, a self-system is not a psychic agent that controls behavior. Rather, it refers to cognitive structures that provide reference mechanism to set of functions for perception, evaluation and regulation of behavior. There are 3 components in self-system. They are self-observation, judgment process and self-response. Self-observation. We look at ourselves, our behavior and keep tabs on it. Judgment. We compare what we see with a standard. For example, we can compare our performance with traditional standards such as rules of table manners, or we can compete with others or with ourselves. Self-response. If we did well in comparison with our standard, we give ourselves rewarding self-responses. If we did poorly, you give ourselves punishing self-responses. These self-responses can range from the obvious, that is treating ourselves to a Sunday work, to the more covert, that is feelings of pride or shame. Self-efficacy. A very important concept in psychology that can be understood with self-regulation is self-efficacy. It is one's belief about one's ability to perform behaviors that should lead to expected outcomes by Bandura in 1995. In other words, self-efficacy is a person's belief in his or her ability to succeed in a particular situation. Since Bandura published his paper, Self-Efficacy Toward a Unifying Theory of Behavioral Change, the subject has become one of the most studied topics in psychology. Third one, principles of observational learning. Observational learning occurs when an organism's responding is influenced by the observation of others who are called models. In human culture, novel behavior is very frequently acquired by observing the behavior of others. Bandura maintains that people's characteristics pattern of behavior are shaped by the model that they are exposed to. An observer attends and stores a mental representation of a model. We observe our parents, teachers, members of our family and society, and we try to imitate it. So behavior can be influenced by others. To illustrate that people learn from watching others, Bandura constructed an experiment entitled Bobo Doll Behavior, a study of aggression. In this experiment, Bandura exposed a group of children video featuring violent and aggressive actions. For the experiment, Bandura made a film of one of his students, a young woman essentially beating up a Bobo doll. Bobo doll is an inflatable egg-shaped balloon creature with a weight in the bottom that makes it bob back up when you knock him down. The woman punched the clown shouting, "Sockaroo!" She kicked it, sat on it, hit it with the little hammer and so on, shouting various aggressive phrases. Bandura showed this film to groups of kindergartners who liked it a lot. Then they were let out to play. In the playroom, there were several observers with pens and clipboards in hand, a brand new Bobo doll and a few little hammers. The observers recorded that a lot of little kids beat the daylights out of Bobo doll. They punched it and shouted, "Sockaroo!" kicked it, sat on it, hit it with the little hammers and so on. In short, they imitated the young lady in the film and quite precisely at that. Model. A model is a person whose behavior is observed by others. At one time or another, everyone serves as model for others. Bandura's key point is that many response tendencies are the product of imitation. Learning through modeling involves adding and subtracting from the observed behavior and generalizing from one situation to another. That is, modeling is not simply mimicry or imitation. It is more than matching the actions of others. It involves symbolically representation of others and storing it for use at a future time. Factors influencing modeling. A number of factors can influence modeling. A. Stimulus properties of the model. It includes the model's age, sex and status relative to that of subjects are varied. High status models are more imitated. Model similarity to the subject, the sex of the models may influence the behavior of the male and female observers. Boys tended to show more aggressive behaviors than girls after watching a female model, whereas girls tended to imitate the aggressive actions of female model more often than a male model. Observers imitate the behavior of competent model more rapidly than those of an incompetent one. They tend to be more strongly influenced by models who are similar to themselves in terms of personal background and physical appearance. B. Types of behavior exemplified by the model. Hostile or aggressive behavior are imitated to a high degree. The subject will adopt self-reward standards similar to those of the model. C. Consequences of models' behavior. Rewarded behavior of the models are more likely to be imitated. Observers also tend to learn more of the behaviors of the model when the models are highly nurturing or rewarding and when they have control over the future resources of the observers. We learn by observing the behavior of others and the occasions on which they are reinforced for their actions and alter our behavior accordingly. D. Motivational set given to the subject. Instruction given to the subject before he observes the model provide him with a high or low motivation to pay attention to and learn the model's behavior. Motivating instructions may be given after the subject view the model and before he is tested. This aids in distinguishing learning from performance of imitative responses. According to social learning theory, models have a great impact on personality development. Children learn to be assertive, self-sufficient, dependable, easygoing, and so forth by observing others behaving in these ways. Process of observational learning. Observational learning is governed by 4 component processes. The first one, attention process. If learning is observational, paying attention to model's behavior is a critical first step. Among the various attention determinants, associational patterns are clearly of major importance. The people with whom are regularly associates, either through preference or imposition, delimit the types of behavior that will be repeatedly observed and hence learned most thoroughly. Attention to models also channeled by their interpersonal attraction. Models who possess engaging qualities are sought out, while those lacking pleasing characteristics are generally ignored or rejected. Some forms of modeling are so intrinsically rewarding that they hold the attention of people of all ages for extended periods. Second one, retention process. The ability to store information is also an important part of the learning process. Retention can be affected by a number of factors, but the ability to pull up information later and act on it is vital to observational learning. Thus, we must be able to retain and remember what we have paid attention to. This is where imagery and language come in. We store what we have seen the model doing in the form of mental images or verbal descriptions. When so stores, we can later bring up the image or description so that we can reproduce it with our own behavior. Third one, motor reproduction process. The third component of modeling involves converting symbolic representation into appropriate actions. Behavioral reproduction is achieved by organizing one's response spatially and temporarily in accordance with the model patterns. Bandura divides motor reproduction into the first one, selecting and organizing the response elements, second one, refining the response on the basis of informative feedback. Fourth one, motivational process. Observational learning is most effective when the learners are motivated to perform the modeled behaviors. Attention and representation can lead to the acquisition of learning, but performance is facilitated by motivation to enact that particular behavior. Reinforcement and punishment play an important role in motivation. While experiencing these motivators can be highly effective, one can also observe other experiences such as some type of reinforcement or punishment that others are being subjected to. Unlike Skinner, Bandura thinks of reinforcement in broader manner. As a result, he talks about direct reinforcement, vicarious reinforcement, and self-administered reinforcement. First one, direct reinforcement. According to Bandura and Walters, the most fundamental and significant principle of social learning is the principle of reinforcement. Most of our behavior in social situations are acquired through reinforcement. The scope of responses acquired through reinforcement is unlimited. With appropriate reinforcement, imitative behavior could be made to occur with a higher frequency than before. Second one, vicarious reinforcement. Bandura and Walters give special emphasis on this type of reinforcement. Consider that a person observes the action of another person who himself is reinforced or punished for his or her actions by a third person. Here the observer of the model also gets reinforced along with the model by merely observing how the latter is getting reinforced in the given situation. In other words, the reinforcement experienced by the model gets transferred to the observer. It enables humans to perform patterns of behavior, quickly avoiding time-consuming trial and error, as well as avoiding costly and even fatal mistake. Once symbols are formed and stored in one's memory, they must be converted into appropriate action for modeling to occur. Third one, self-administered reinforcement. According to Bandura and Walters, self-administered reinforcement also plays a significant role in observational learning. In many situations, the individual set a standard for self-reinforcement. Both children and adolescents tend to adopt standards of self-administered reinforcement, which matches the standards of the models to which they have been exposed. For example, a boy tells, "If I do this math assignment in time, I will treat myself with a cinema." The theory of Bandura has been demonstrated to make powerful predictions and has generated useful applications in a large number of areas of human behavior. Module 3, VYGOTSKY'S Social Constructivism. Constructivism, a vast area in contemporary psychology, epistemology and education, is a broad term used by philosophers, curriculum designers, psychologists, educators and others. Most people who use the term emphasize the learner's contribution to meaning and learning through both individual and social activity. Constructivist perspectives are grounded in the research of Piaget, Vygotsky, the Gestalt psychologist, as well as the educational philosophy. Vygotsky's social constructivism is a variety of cognitive constructivism that emphasizes the collaborative nature of learning. Vygotsky thought that it was quite impossible to separate learning from its social context. For Vygotsky, learning is not mere assimilation and adaptation, but knowledge is constructed through social experiences. Vygotsky believed that social interaction, cultural tools and activity shape individual development and learning. Module 4, Social Constructivism of Vygotsky can be explained in the following headings. The first one, knowledge or cognitive structure. Second one, levels of learning and development. Third one, motivation. And the fourth one, instruction. The first one, knowledge or cognitive structure. Vygotsky believed that human cognitive structures are socially constructed. Knowledge construction is not a simple construction. On the other hand, it is co-constructed. Here Vygotsky put special emphasis on language and culture in cognitive development. Culture creates cognition when the adult uses tools and practices them from culture like language, maps, computers, looms or music to steer the child toward goals, the culture values, that is reading, writing, weaving and dance. Language and culture form the framework through which human experience, communicate and understand reality. Language and the conceptual schemes that are transmitted by means of language are essentially social phenomena. Second one, levels of learning and development. Vygotsky distinguishes between two developmental levels, A, the level of actual development and B, the level of potential development. The first one is the level of development that the learner has already reached and is the level at which the learner is capable of solving problems independently at a given time. The level of potential development is a level that the learner is capable of reaching under the guidance of the teachers or by collaborating with peers. According to Vygotsky, at any given point in development, there are certain problems that a child is on the verge of being able to solve. The child does need some structures, clues, reminders, help with remembering details or steps, encouragement to keep trying and so on. Some problems, of course, are beyond the child's capabilities, even if every step is explained clearly. The zone of proximal development or ZPD is the area where the child cannot solve a problem alone but can be successful under adult guidance or in collaboration with a more advanced peer. This is the area when instruction can succeed because real learning is possible. Students should be put in situations where they have to reach to understand, but where support from other students or from the teacher is also available. Sometimes the best teacher is not the student who has just figured out the problem, because this student is probably operating in the learner's zone of proximal development. Students should be guided by explanations, demonstrations, and work with other students, opportunities for cooperative learning. Having a student work with someone who is just a bit better at the activity would also be a good idea. In addition, students should be encouraged to use language to organize their thinking and to talk about what they are trying to accomplish. Dialogue and discussion are important avenues to learning. Third one, motivation. For behaviorists, motivation implies extrinsic motivation, a reaction to reinforcement which is either positive or negative. Cognitive motivation is essentially intrinsic, that is based on the learner's internal drive. Social constructivists see motivation as both intrinsic and extrinsic. As learning is essentially a new phenomenon, learners are partially motivated by rewards provided by the knowledge community. However, as the learner actively constructs knowledge, learning depends to a significant extent also on the learner's internal drive to understand and promote the learning process. Fourth one, instruction. Collaborative learning methods require learners to develop teamwork skills and to approve the fact that individual learning is essentially related to the success of group learning. The optimal size for group learning is 4 or 5 people. Since the average group size is 6 or more, collaborative learning methods often warrants breaking up of larger groups into smaller groups, although discussion sessions also can provide a collaborative learning environment. For instance, in group investigations, students may be split into groups. Then they may be required to choose a topic from a limited area and to work on it with definite goals related to the construction of knowledge. They are then held responsible for presenting their findings to the class. In general, collaborative learning should be seen as a process of peer interaction that is mediated and structured by the teacher. Discussion can be made effective by the presentation of specific concepts and problems. Members can be guided with the help of directed questions. Introduction and clarification of related concepts and information, as well as references taken from the existing cognitive structure, also will be helpful. Let us summarize the major ideas we have discussed so far. This unit provides a detailed analysis of Bandura's social learning theory and VYGOTSKY'S constructivism. Bandura's theory highlighted the important role played by social experiences to which children are exposed in shaping their behavior style in various domains of life. VYGOTSKY'S social constructivism emphasizes the importance of culture and context in understanding what occurs in society and constructing knowledge based on this understanding. You can try to answer the given questions here. First one, what is self-efficacy? The second one, what is motivation according to constructivists? Third one, what is the significance of group activity in VYGOTSKY'S social constructivism? Fourth one, what is VYGOTSKY'S view of instruction? You can refer these books for further reading and understanding. Hilgard, R.E. and Bower, G.H. in the year 1975. Theories of Learning, 4th edition, New Jersey, Prentice Hall. Hulse, H.S., Dees, J. and Egth, H. in 1975. The Psychology of Learning, 4th edition, McGraw-Hill. Hope that you have enjoyed the session. We will meet again with another topic. Thank you.